welcome back. Today we are joined by Seth Brown. Seth is a full-time real estate agent for 3 years here in the local Charlotte market, working with Epique Real Estate that has over 7,000 agents nationwide and over 20 agents here locally in North Carolina. As Seth's trying to help continue to build that out for him here too. But at the moment, just being in real estate for 3 years, Seth has already helped 40 families buy and sell real estate on their side, which is fantastic. That's a really quick start to a career here. And that puts him within a top 5 agent with his brokerage here in North Carolina. So really, really talented agent. Seth, we're excited to have you today. Welcome aboard.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I say welcome aboard right as you're about to head on a cruise, and I didn't even realize that, I put the pun out there.
Good dad joke to start the segment.
Fresh off dropping my kid off to daycare, I'm firmly in dad mode. I love it. Well, cool, Seth. We're going to talk about a couple things today. We'll cover, some of your thoughts on the state of the Charlotte market, and then kind of dive into what your process is to serve your clients and how you go about helping them on the actual transaction itself. But sure. Let's start there. In Charlotte, in the greater Charlotte area right now, what trends are you noticing with home prices?
So home prices are coming down. They've been coming down for probably going on 6 months-ish now, I'd say, since end of March is about where I'd say they started to see the decreases over and over and over again. Sellers still want max value. So a lot of the times they're still pricing them like it was early to 2025. And then you'll start to see the decreases from there. We're in that mode now where sellers are realizing prices aren't, during COVID anymore, and they are being a lot more realistic from the get-go, which is helping without the pricing absolutely coming down.
Awesome. So when you say that, can you, not to necessarily scare everybody, right? They're going to hear prices are coming down and they're going to think, oh my gosh, the world's falling 2008, right? When you say prices are coming down, like are these, 1 or 2% type of price drops, are these 10% type of price drops? What are you seeing?
No, I don't think they'd be 10%. That would be right. Dream. But I think, between 2 and 5%, depending on the property and what city they're in and that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, I always say like it kind of capped end of 2023, went flat in 2024. And at this point now, we've hit that plateau where they are starting to drop just slightly. But I mean, it's sellers, if they're realistic, they can still sell quickly, and buyers can absolutely pick up a deal now, which is great.
Awesome. Yeah, I think when you mentioned prices coming down, right, you're talking about from what they list at. Correct. Okay. Good deal. Yeah, and you mentioned that. So can you hit on that? Over the last year or so, you mentioned just a couple minutes ago, sellers are becoming a little more realistic. Talk to that and those conversations you're having with sellers out in the marketplace right now.
Yeah, I think everybody, because of the hype after COVID, and they may have bought at a very high price and then they sold at an even higher price. They kind of had that expectation that trend would last forever. But it doesn't. And, the whole Zestimate thing kind of skews things. But when you actually show them real numbers to sellers and you show them, hey, look, this is your neighborhood, this is your hyper local market, this is what things are actually selling for. And you have that conversation at the get-go, they go, oh, okay, maybe it's not worth 400, it's 375. And it's going to sell a lot quicker if you price it at what it's supposed to be priced at. So the ones that I've been selling quickly are just priced right from day one. If these sellers are adamant, I got to price it at this, I like to put a plan in place. Like, sure, we can try it, but we got to come down quickly. And it typically will come down and then sell where it was supposed to. So the market demands to sell it where it's supposed to.
So setting expectations with the seller from the get-go of, hey, we can try your price. My professional opinion is we need to be here if we're going to actually move it. Right. How many sellers are you say are open to that, and how many sellers are wanting to just stick to their price and not budge off of it?
I haven't had a seller this year that isn't willing to move. And I think that goes, a long way for the seller. They're realizing the price differences. But again, I always set those expectations. This is where we're at. If you're all willy-nilly with it, then yeah, you might promise them the world. But I like to set those expectations from day one and have a plan going into it beyond that.
Awesome. We had a previous guest on, and we had a similar conversation about sellers and realistic sales price and stuff like that. We've noticed there's been a little more inventory coming to the market in the greater Charlotte area, right? Do you think that is true inventory, or how much of that do you think is sellers just, I'm going to just list my house, and if I get my number, great. If it doesn't work in 30 or 60 days, I'm going to just pull the listing, right? How many of that is serious sellers versus I'm just trying to cash in a number and see if someone will pay me it?
I think all the people I've worked with, and even like my entire team, they're serious sellers. I don't think we've had any of those. We'll just throw out a willy-nilly number, hope it sticks in a while. I've seen a lot of for sale by owners do that. And I think that's that trend of they'll throw out a number and they'll let it sit there forever because they don't care about selling it that much. But the actual sellers that are listed, they're all serious sellers. Even on the buy side, I think it's the same thing. They're not trying to overinflate. They want to sell their house. They might have something going on, moving, that kind of thing. So, which is good.
Have you noticed any material uptick in people wanting to try to do for sale by owners or anything like that? Or would you say it's remained relatively similar to trends in the past?
I think it's about the same since I started 3 years ago. I haven't seen a huge uptick. Numbers are roughly the same. I think now they're more likely. I've had more success working with for sale by owners in the past 12 months than I did in the first 24 months. So they're more apt to, all right, I'm going to become a serious seller eventually. We might as well list with an agent at this point.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, I want to pivot a little bit. We've obviously been in a higher interest rate environment for going on 3 years. Certainly higher than what people experienced in COVID, right?
Yeah,
So
100%.
what advice would you have for buyers that are worried about higher interest rates right now?
Yeah, I think from when I started in 2023, which they were a little lower to now, it was scarier at the beginning. Then it went over 7. So it was like, oh, I'm not definitely not buying. And now that we're in the mid 6s, it's kind of the norm right now, right? Still higher, but it's become the norm because it's been like this for the past year. So I'm starting to see more buyers come out because they go, if I do want to buy a house, I want to start building equity, I'm going to have to. The good thing for buyers is I'm seeing a lot of sellers be able to give those concessions for buy downs and other items, which a lot of buyers are using. So maybe we get, a 2-1 buy down, something along those lines where it's going to help them at the beginning. And then hopefully they do trend a little bit back down and then they can refi at that point. But it's not as scary as it was when it spiked to 7. So but buyers are being a little bit more realistic and they want to buy houses. So
Yeah,
it's just finding the right
life still goes on no matter interest rate environments, right?
Absolutely.
Things
Absolutely.
still happen. People have kids, divorce happens, deaths happen, unfortunately, and real estate sales still take place. So
Right.
yeah, I'd agree with you, man. That's a lot of what we've seen on the lending side as well. I think, it's if almost every deal we look at, if there's not seller concessions at the beginning, typically through the inspection period, there are some seller concessions that come into play. And being able to show buyers, hey, we can take this money and actually make a huge impact on your monthly payment by using it towards rate buy down. It also kind of extends out, want to get some lower rate from the get-go. So then it's saying, hey, even if things don't improve, right, you're securing a lower than market interest rate from the get-go here. So
Right.
Awesome. Seth, your typical client, would you say they're first-time home buyers? Would you say they're move-up buyers, investors? What does your typical client look like?
My typical buyer is either someone relocating to Charlotte or the first time home buyer. Those I'm probably about 50-50 with those. With the amount of people that are moving to Charlotte, I get a lot of relocations from up north, the New York, New England area. And then the other half is probably all first time home buyers. And exactly like you just said, they're life has to go on, and they might not have bought 2, 3 years ago, even if they wanted to, but now they're like, all right, I'm going to take that jump and actually buy something this year. So
So a relo buyer and a first-time home buyer, North Carolina is a little bit different with real estate, right? So
yeah.
do you go through a similar process with a relocation buyer and a first-time home buyer, even if that relocation buyer has bought and sold real estate before?
Yeah, I think the relo buyer knows the housing stuff. They know the process of buying, inspections, things like that. So it's more of teaching them the North Carolina side and kind of our processes, a little more stringent, a little more strict than other states, that kind of thing. But they know the process. With first time home buyers, you're holding their hand from day one all the way through close. So a little more patience, that kind of thing, because they don't know what to expect half the time. They might get more scared at an inspection than someone who's bought or sold 2 or 3 houses. So yeah, it's a little bit different, but it's definitely a lot more patience with a first time home buyer than a relo.
Awesome. So there's a chance to educate everyone who's listening to this. What are some of the smaller nuances within North Carolina real estate that you would want buyers or sellers to be aware of as a refresher?
Yeah, so I think the number one thing that always comes up is the due diligence fee. It's something that a buyer pays directly to a seller to secure the contract from day one, that a seller keeps right from day one. It's something that you wouldn't get back. I haven't seen another state do it that I've worked in. So that's the number one thing, and it can scare off a lot of buyers of like, I'm putting my money at risk and this kind of thing. But as long as you explain it correctly, like, the seller's taking their house off the market for you to look at it. They're not entertaining anything else. So it's a little bit of meet me halfway, go back and forth. So that's the number one thing. We don't have a lot of contingencies in North Carolina within our contracts like a lot of other states have. So if you're going to pull out, it's hard deadline, pull out and move on from there, where a lot of other states are contingent on this, contingent on that, but we don't have those down here. So those are a couple North Carolina specific things.
So speak to a little bit of the trends of due diligence and earnest money these days, right? And you still see it here and there, maybe on a specific property type of thing, but we went from people buying $450,000 homes, $500,000 homes, and putting $50,000 due diligence checks now. What are you seeing in the market for kind of a more return to normal on due diligence and earnest money?
Yeah. I think a good due diligence is about 1% of your purchase price. So $400,000 home, $4,000. If it's a multiple offer situation, you might have to come up a little bit, 2%. But I mean, you're not going to be putting $20,000 down anymore. You shouldn't have to, at least. And like you said, if it's a lower end property, maybe it's sat for 120 days. I'm seeing people put as low as $500 down, even $1,000, and still securing it. On the earnest money side, 3 years ago, it was about 50-50. I'd put 2,000 due diligence, 2,000 earnest money. Sellers don't care about earnest money as much anymore. So I'm seeing $500 in earnest money, even, something low, because buyers aren't really backing out after due diligence. So it's not as important to sellers anymore.
And to all those people listening, when we talk about due diligence and earnest money, yes, it is a check you write up front. However, that money, you have to think about that money as a prepayment of my cash to close, right?
Yep.
That money is not on top of, your down payment, your closing cost already, right?
Correct.
Awesome. Cool, Seth. Well, let's pivot a little bit. Let's get into your process, how you serve your clients, what that looks like. So how do you define great service to your clients, either a buyer or a seller?
I think the biggest thing for me, being available is number one. Being patient with people. A lot of these people, like I told you, half these people have never bought a home before. They have no idea what to expect. So you just can't think that it's exactly like the last buyer you worked with. Being super patient, being very informative. If you don't have an answer, find an answer for them, let them know, educate them, both buyer and seller side. So I think I do a very good job with that. And I set those expectations on our very, very first meeting. Here's the process. Here's what's going to happen. But if you have questions, call me 24/7. I know things might get scary. You wake up one morning, man, is the house going to, you can call me and talk talk through it and that kind of thing. So I just like to be there for them. It's as rewarding for me to watch someone buy a house than it is for them to buy the house. So
Awesome. So I know Seth, you mentor a couple agents as well that are newer to the business.
yep.
How do you talk about your team to your buyers and sellers? And sometimes, hey guys, we all live life, right? Sometimes you're going to be out of town. Like how do you talk about, hey, you get the benefit of not only working with me but with the full team?
Yeah. I think this is a perfect example with me going into my cruise next week. So I have a team of it's 3 other agents here in Charlotte, and we're all solo agents, but we are a team all within Epique. And we help each other just like you would help somebody if you all work together, not as solo agents. And if I'm out of town, like next week, I have somebody else who is helping me with listing and setting photos, meeting photographers, putting signs out. I have another agent that's helping, and one of the other people on the team was showings because she's out of town this weekend. And when I have a meeting with like a seller or a buyer, and I tell them like, hey, listen, I'm gone for 5 days next week. Here's Emily's number. Here's Gabby's number. Give them a call. They're equally as patient as I am. They, you need to go see a house. You need, questions. Give them a call, and they can answer everything that I can answer from day one. So they know it's not just me. It's them. So we're available 24/7, even if one of us is out of town.
The power of 3. The power of 3 working for you.
Power, yeah. Power of 4.
Power of 4 working for you to serve your buyers and your sellers. They've always got someone they can reach out to.
Correct. Yep. Absolutely.
Awesome. So we talked a lot. It's typically a first-time home buyer or reload buyer or seller that you're working with, right? When you're vetting your partners, so think about, inspectors, insurance agents, lenders, et cetera. How do you go through that vetting process to make sure that when you're making a referral to your buyer or seller, that's a good reflection on you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think at the beginning, you work with so many different vendors, right? So you got to kind of vet them yourself. You have to go through the trials and errors of hiring good and bad. But for myself, I like to hire people that have a similar personality style to me, because if I get along with my buyer, my seller, because of my personality, they should too. So working with an inspector who is available, patient, educational, things like that. If you work with an outside vendor, like a roofer, a contractor, a structural engineer, some other things that might pop up, you want them to not just be brash and to the point, blunt. You want them to be like, hey, here's the issue. Here's how we're going to fix it. Let's do. So it's that patience, educational, but it does take a while for you to really find all those people and make sure you want to work them over and over and be able to actually recommend them, because it will come back on you, right?
Right.
So I think I have a good list now, and but it's always changing. So.
The proof is in the pudding, right? Sometimes we never know what we're getting into unless we actually go through it and someone does a good job, or they don't, and we say, you're out of here, right?
Yep. Exactly. Agreed.
So prior to getting into real estate, Seth, you were in the corporate gym world, right? How do you take that discipline from what you learned there and apply that to your business today? Yeah,
I mean, when I worked at the corporate gym world, it was a conglomerate business, right? We had 56 gyms. The business side of it was easy to bring into the real estate for myself to structure my business, because I had that whole business background. The hardest part was I'm working for myself now, right? I'm self-disciplined and this and that. So to structure it that way was a little bit different, and it took me a little while to kind of get used to that. But I loved my job at the gym, and as long as I keep loving my job in real estate, it should just be a smooth transition. The processes are the same. Training. I was a corporate trainer up there, so it all came naturally. Training somebody to do a process there is the same as teaching somebody how to buy a house, right? So it worked well for me, just a smooth transition.
Awesome. How do you continue to improve that? What we learn something from every deal we do. Like how do you continue to refine and improve your process into the future?
Yeah, I think on the buying side, it's learning more and more and more. I'm one of those weird agents who go to every single home inspection. I've never missed one for all my clients.
I'm not sure that makes you a weird agent, Seth. I think that means you're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
I think, but you'd be surprised how many agents don't go to these. I learned more from a home inspection than you ever could reading something or going online and doing it. So that allows me to tell more people my past experiences. If I'm walking a house for the first time, I can point out things and teach these buyers how to do that. Same on the selling side. If we're going to prep a home, I know what buyers are going to look for, and I know what their agents are going to look for. So we can point that out and kind of get those done before we even list it, and they won't become an issue. So I think it's experience. It's just doing it over and over and over again, and taking those experiences and sharing them with buyers and sellers.
Awesome. So the home inspection, especially for first-time home buyers, they're going to get this packet, 16, 20 pages long. How do you keep them calm? How do you make them understand what's important, what's not in this document?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. I think your inspections are like 50 to 60 pages now, even the good inspections. But we set that expectation at the beginning. If they can come to the inspection, great, right? We can talk about it while we're there. But while I'm walking around with the inspector, I'm learning, okay, this is a big issue. We need to take care of this ASAP. This is a small issue. We don't have to worry about it. So if there's any big issues and my client isn't at the inspection, I'm calling them directly after the inspection. Hey, here's a few things that popped up. Don't be scared when you see the report. We're going to go over these. And you're also going to see 20 different little small things that, grab a screwdriver, we can fix it. And again, some people, everything's a big deal. So it's just kind of listening to them, calming them down, hearing them out. If they want it fixed, we'll get it fixed. It's just listening and being patient with them and kind of teaching them, what's important, what's not.
Where do you think you got your emotional intelligence from, right? Like buying a piece of residential real estate can get very emotional for either a buyer or a seller, right? There's either a lot of memories that have been made there, maybe they raised their kids there, or a first-time buyer that I'm making a huge financial commitment here. How do you balance out the emotions of buying and selling real estate on the residential side?
Yeah, I mean, I think working in the gym world forever, I don't want to say it was kind of like we would hire so many different people and across so many different, age ranges, emotional ranges, different areas. It's kind of, we had, 40 cities we were in. So it's different. It's like real estate. Everybody's a little different. So through experience of just dealing with so many different people, you learn to deal with so many different emotions. And I don't know, my mom's patient. My dad is even more patient. So I think patience goes a long way. Listening, just hearing them out. Half the time they just want to vent, and it's kind of like, okay, that makes sense. And then responding with what should be said, and just doing what my experiences taught me. This is how I would deal with it, XYZ. Oh, that makes sense. And yeah, just kind of supporting them from there. But I think it's a lot of it is experience and just dealing with it for so long.
Awesome. Well, I think the important part is you listen, you let them get it out, and then we come up with a solution. Right.
Correct. That's the key.
Fantastic. What do you see as one of the biggest kind of hidden opportunities for buyers or sellers right now in the greater Charlotte region? Because I know you don't just do Metro Charlotte, like you kind of focus on kind of an hour radius. Like where do you see opportunity for people that they might not be thinking?
Yeah, so I always joke with people that if they don't want to live in Charlotte, because Charlotte's full, right? I always say that because there's not a lot of spot to build anymore unless you want to live in the city. So Union County, I think, is a huge area. Your Monroe area, still a lot of land. They're still building. Your northern Gaston, western Lincoln County. I served there. I actually moved up to Lincoln County this summer. Huge opportunity. The builders are starting to come here, but there's still so much opportunity for housing, especially for first-time home buyers. You can get the same house here for half the price as Charlotte, and it's crazy. But I think those are a couple areas that haven't been hugely marketed yet, and I think buyers can still find value around those areas right now.
If you could compare Charlotte to another kind of greater metropolitan area, is there another town that comes to mind in the United States that you think Charlotte has some similarities with?
Oh, Charlotte. There'd be like some, so I lived in New England forever. So there'd be some like, I wouldn't say your Boston's because Boston's, I think, more tight knit than Charlotte, but there's some like Western Massachusetts towns like Worcester, big city. But it's kind of similar to a Charlotte versus like a Boston.
So,
You're good.
when Seth, when you look at the growth that's going on, within Charlotte, with things kind of expanding out beyond that, what are a city or two in the United States that you would draw a parallel to for maybe what Charlotte looks like over the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah. So Charlotte's growing at a ginormous rate, right? So if I took, I grew up in New England. So if we take like your Manchester, Nashua area, it's similar to Charlotte, where so many people from out of state are moving up there. They're either getting out of New York, your Californias, and they're moving to New England, just like they're moving here to Charlotte. I think Worcester is another city in Massachusetts. It's a bigger city than your Manchester, Nashua realm, but similar idea. It's a big city, lots of outskirts. People can still grow, and you're not in Boston. So, yeah.
But close enough if you want it, right?
You're less than an hour. Yeah.
Awesome. So if we ask the past client of yours, Seth, to describe their experience working with Seth Brown, what would they say?
Yeah, I think I've touched on it a few times. Patient, very patient, hand holding, walking them through the process, buyer, seller, wouldn't matter. I keep them updated for every step of the way. There's no hidden anything. If I hear something, they know something. Available is another one. If they have questions, I literally answer my phone till 11 o'clock at night if it's an emergency, weekends, things like that. If I can't reach them, I have my team, and one of us will be able to help them. But yeah, I think that's kind of a few things that people would say. I think every client would kind of say that. So.
Awesome. Well, we've had the pleasure of working alongside you and serving clients together, and there's no doubt that you have genuine care for the people you're serving and their best interest at heart as you're trying to help them, buy real estate, which is great. All right. I want to have a little fun. Couple rapid fire questions, and then we'll get you out of here and get you off to the fun in the sun here.
All right.
Favorite restaurant in the greater Charlotte area?
So the Village Tavern.
Good answer. Yeah. Okay, great. Favorite NFL team?
Denver Broncos.
From New England?
I know. My mom was a John Elway fan, so I just absorbed that.
What's your favorite thing to do when you're not serving clients? What do you like to get outside and do?
I play disc golf, and luckily Charlotte is the mecca of disc golf in the entire United States, so it works out well.
You moved to so we could draw parallels of Charlotte is Augusta, Georgia of disc golf. Is that what we're looking at?
That's exactly it. You nailed it.
All right, fantastic. No wonder you moved here.
Yeah, exactly.
Seth, what do you think? Will the Carolina Panthers make the playoffs this year?
I don't, but I could see them winning 6 to 7 games this year. I don't think it'd be close. If they're going to do it, they're in the division to do it. So yeah.
We're gonna get one agent on here who's gonna be bold enough to say that the Carolina Panthers will make the playoffs.
You got to get the guy that's like 16-0, 17-0, sweeps the playoffs. Yeah.
Awesome. Seth, thanks for spending time with us today. If people want to reach out to you, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can call, text me 24/7. My phone number is 603-320-8100. You can also email me anytime, SethBrownRealtor@outlook.com, and follow me on Instagram, Facebook @SethBrownRealtor.
Awesome. Seth, thanks for spending time with us today, man. Greatly appreciate it. Enjoy your vacation, and look forward to hopefully having you on here again in the future.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'll come back anytime.
All right, Seth. Have a good one.
Thanks, buddy.